Hey everyone, Duke here, and today we're showing you how to complete the new dungeon, Warlord's Ruin. I don't think there's ever been a dungeon I've enjoyed more on my first couple playthroughs, so I'm really excited to run it a bunch this season. And if you need a team to run it with and learn from, I'll be doing helps on my stream at twitch.tv/dukeiscool, so come on by. Before we get into the walkthrough, there's a few mods I want to quickly discuss. Running your choice of exotic primary along with heavy ammo finder and heavy ammo scout on your helmet is going to make you a heavy ammo making machine. If you're at all struggling with consistent ammo drops, I cannot recommend this setup enough. Running a scavenger mod for your heavy weapon type can make these bricks even more plentiful. The seasonal artifact has a number of great mods for specific builds, especially solar ones, but the mod I'd recommend running no matter your build is From Whence You Came. This dungeon has nothing but Scorn and Taken in it, so this mod will allow you to do an additional 5% ability damage permanently in the entire dungeon. This also works inside of your own well for weapon damage as well, which increases its potency immensely for damage phases. To start, you're just going to need to follow the path and climb up the side of the mountain. If you reach a point where there looks like there's just a dead end by going straight, it is a dead end, so turn back around and look to your left for a higher ledge to continue on around the mountain. Do note that this will be to your right if coming from the original path. From here, just keep going forward, cross the bridge, and enter into the dungeon and to the first boss encounter. Our first boss is Rathil, and this boss fight is going to teach us a few of the main mechanics that are going to be built on in each encounter. To start, a few adds will spawn in, and after a few moments, Rathil will teleport everyone into the cages above. There'll be a number of taken eyeballs around each cage, and by shooting all of the eyes around a particular cage, it will unlock that cage for the person that's trapped in it and allow them to jump out of it. If you don't do this fast enough, it will kill the person inside of the cage, and note that it can be helpful and potentially easier to shoot the eyes around your teammates' cages, as you'll have a bit of an easier angle and perspective, but anyone is able to and should shoot all of the taken eyes that they possibly can to get everyone out of their cages. Additionally, you'll have noticed a 30-second imminent wish timer that starts as soon as he teleports you, along with some Scorn Hefnd sensor lamps spawned on the ground. Once you and your team are out of your cages, look for these sensor lamps immediately and stand in the circle created by them. After a few seconds, it will start to glow, denoting that you have activated the lamp. By doing this before the imminent wish timer runs out, Rathil's Hex will backfire, allowing you to do damage to him. You'll have a 15-second damage window with the Wish Empowerment buff by activating one lamp, increasing to around 20 seconds if you're able to activate two of them in time. After the damage phase ends, you'll repeat the same process of getting teleported into the cages, shooting the taken eyes, standing in the sensor lamps, and doing DPS until Rathil has been defeated. Immediately after defeating Rathil, you'll be teleported and imprisoned into some cages in a new area. Next to two of these cages will be a skeleton on the ground with a number of scratches carved into a stone next to it. One of these will be to the skeleton's left, and one will be next to a different skeleton on the right. You'll also notice 6 spinning wheels that can be shot around the room. These can spin either right or left by shooting them again. Basically, they'll start spinning left, you shoot it, it'll reset, and then the next time you shoot it, it'll start spinning right, etc. And the skeletons are there to tell you how many need to be spinning in each direction. If the skeleton is to the right of the number of scratches, that means you will need to spin that many wheels to the right. If the skeleton is to the left, you'll need to spin that many wheels to the left. As far as I can tell, you will always use all 6 wheels, so by looking at either of the skeletons, for example, if it was on the right with a 4, you would immediately know that the other skeleton would be on the left with a 2 and have 4 wheels spinning right with 2 spinning left. Once you have all of the wheels spinning in the correct direction, shoot the lever that will be glowing a bit to lock in your answer, and the doors should open if done correctly. Otherwise, all the wheels will reset and you can try again. The next area will be a maze littered with a few traps throughout. You can see these traps on the walls before heading into them with a rectangular box. You'll either need to jump over them, duck under them, or stay to the side of them to avoid activating these traps. I'm going to have this next footage sped up but all included, just in case you'd like to see the entire path, as it can get a bit confusing, but feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps if wanted. Eventually you'll make it back outside to climb the mountain a bit more and cross a large bridge. At the other end of this bridge, make your way across to the left and there will be a small hole to go through. Follow this path up to reach the second boss. Our second boss is the Locus of Wailing Grief. Here we are going to use some of the mechanics from the first encounter, but add a few new ones as well. To start, there will be a number of taken eyeballs around the boss in the center of the room, and by destroying all of them, it will spawn a Scorn mini-boss on the far left and far right sides of the map. Additionally, defeating all of these eyeballs will start the Biting Cold debuff. This is very similar to Frostbite from Deepstone Crypt, and it will slowly stack up and eventually kill you if it hits 10. There are a number of fires behind you if looking out towards the boss and along the wall, and standing near these will reduce your Biting Cold back to 0. You'll need to do a mix of keeping track of both your Biting Cold while also taking down the Scorn mini-bosses that spawned in, as there will additionally be the 30-second Imminent Wish timer from the first encounter. These Scorn mini-bosses will usually spawn a sensor lamp within a few seconds of spawning, and it is best to wait a few seconds before shooting it, if you can, because that will then spawn a second one when you defeat the Scorn. If done correctly, you can get 2 sensor lamps from each mini-boss, and even have them overlapping to be able to activate them simultaneously. Just be sure to keep an eye on your Biting Cold while doing this. For however many total sensor lamps you are able to activate before the Imminent Wish timer runs out, you will get that many fire orbs in the center to spawn. Grabbing one of these will allow you to create fires all around the boss in the center. There are 4 fire pits to dunk in, and all 4 need to be activated to start DPS. Also note that you have 15 seconds to dunk the orb once it's picked up, before it will dissipate and you will lose it. If you weren't able to get all 4 in one round, no problem, just repeat the process of killing the taken eyes to spawn more mini-boss Scorn, and then get more fire orbs to dunk and dunk the remaining orbs. If you did get all 4, DPS phase will start. Each fire pit will now have a DPS circle around it, lasting 15 seconds from when it is activated. You'll want to make sure to all be using the same fire pit, as you can activate more than one at once, and this will just cause you to lose DPS time. The circles are also quite big, so if coming across the map to get to a certain fire pit, be sure to be careful how exactly you are running to get there, and not accidentally cross through one of the other fire pits. After each fire pit runs out, rotate to the next one for 15 more seconds of DPS. It doesn't matter the order that you use these in, we usually just picked one to start and then rotated in that same direction for the entirety of the damage phase. After using all 4 fire pits, the encounter will reset and you will repeat from the top as many times as needed until the boss has been defeated. Once defeating the boss, continue forward and follow the path until running into a room with a bunch of chests. You may have noticed some troll chests that exhaust you and spawn a bunch of screebs before this, and every single one of these chests except one is going to do that here. However, one chest will be a real chest that gives you a dungeon loot drop. I'm pretty sure there's a way to tell which one is the correct one, but as of right now, I don't know what that is. And we just dropped a well in the center to just tank the screebs and open them all for the memes. But let me know in the comments below if you do know the right way to figure out the right chest. After opening the chest, continue forward and upward until making your way back outside to traverse more of the mountain. If you head all the way up and to the right slightly, there will be a chest hidden here that isn't a troll chest and will also give you more dungeon loot for your first run of the week. After collecting this chest, go back the way you came a bit and climb inside a small hole in the mountain. Continuing forward from here will be your jumping puzzle. This jumping puzzle has a number of obstacles such as the spinning rocks and taken boopers in the wall. I have 3 recommendations for making this a bit easier. First, try to kill all the ads that you can from a distance before you start moving towards them so that you aren't getting shot while also trying to make your jumps. Second, try to plan your path a bit before making the jumps, as there's only a few places that you need to jump out into the middle for, and if you can make the jumps quickly, you can mostly avoid the spinning rocks in the middle. And finally, I'd recommend some sort of movement ability such as grapple, Icarus dash, shoulder charge, a sword, just for some extra additional safety and maneuverability. After making it through the jumping puzzle, you'll be back outside for the final time. There will be a bit more mountain to traverse upwards on, with some ads from time to time, so just continue following the path, climbing and killing until reaching a large circular staircase. Climb to the top of the staircase to meet the final boss. The final boss is Hefnd's Vengeance, and to start, a number of ads will spawn in, along with some taken eyes around the boss, and as before in the last encounter, shooting all of these eyes will spawn in 2 score and mini-bosses that we will want to defeat. Also as before, this will start a 30-second imminent wish timer that will start counting down, and you'll want to activate these sensor lamps that the score and mini-bosses drop before the timer runs out. However, there is an additional mechanic here called the Hex of Vengeful Corruption. This will also spawn in some immune melee scorn called the Hex Drinkers. By meleeing these scorn, you will transfer your corruption to them, and after 15 seconds from when you first got this Vengeful Corruption debuff, it will kill whoever currently has it, whether that be on you or the scorn that you meleeed. Note that if the scorn melees you back after you transfer it to them, and before they die of course, it will then transfer back to you, so definitely keep that in mind and make sure you then melee it back again if that happens. Also, an additional note, again, if running with a team, make sure that you each melee a different scorn, because if someone with that Vengeful Corruption debuff melees a scorn, that one can no longer be meleeed. There's going to be enough scorn there for you to each melee a different one, but just keep that in mind and kind of keep track of that. There's 2 options I like to use to help with this. If I'd already activated the sensor lamps, I would immediately go to the high ground after punching one so that they couldn't punch me back. Otherwise, I'd just make sure to get the lamps activated first, and then punch the scorn in the last couple seconds of the debuff timer and run away until it killed them. Either way, after this part, you will get a damage phase with a longer damage phase depending on how many sensor lamps you activated. You'll need to do at least a small chunk of the boss's health bar denoted by a different color on the bottom of your screen to move to the next section, otherwise you'll need to repeat this section. Once you've done enough damage, the boss will move up to higher ground and you will follow. This section will be exactly the same as the first, just with fighting in a new area. Do also note that the boss can spawn in little taken orbs from time to time on the ground that create a pool of takenness. They can and should be shot to keep the ground from being corrupted and avoid the additional taken blasts that can spawn in this corruption. After the second damage phase, you'll follow the boss up once more to repeat the same steps for a 3rd time and a 3rd damage phase. I think of this encounter sort of as a mini Shirochi, where we are following the boss up a tower and doing many shorter damage phases. Finally, after this 3rd damage phase, the boss will teleport higher once more, and you'll have platforms to stand on around the boss. Each of these platforms will give you a longer damage phase than before to really get some good damage on the boss. As your Wish Empowerment buff, which is allowing you to do damage here, fades on each platform, make your way to the next platform in the sequence. Once every platform has been used, you'll be teleported back down to the ground level to repeat everything from the start. You'll continue in this rotation until you reach Final Stand. For Final Stand, the boss will teleport you onto a platform where you just need to kill the boss before it kills you. I'm not sure if there's a time element to this, honestly, where you can wipe if you don't do enough damage, as we didn't run into it, but I'd try to have a bit of ammo or supers for this part, just in case. Once the boss has been defeated, congratulations, you've completed the Warlord's Rune Dungeon. Your loot will be spawned in front of you, and don't forget to grab the Ahamkara bone that will be right next to the chest in order to progress to later steps of the dungeon quest. I hope this video was helpful, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.